Today we're going deep on something pretty wild, the jump from AGI to ASI.
Artificial general intelligence to artificial superintelligence.
Yeah. It's a concept that I think gets a lot of people excited, but maybe also a little freaked out, right? AGI, so AI that's basically as smart as a human is one thing.
Yeah.
But ASI, we're talking potential godlike abilities, something we can barely even wrap our heads around right now.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, getting from AGI to ASI, it might not be as easy as just like flipping a switch. And that's what our deep dive is going to be all about today.
Yeah.
We're going to unpack 7 key arguments from the stuff we've been reading that suggest it's going to be a much longer and more complicated journey. A lot more complicated than some people might think.
Yeah, it's a really interesting question. And I think what's fascinating is that these arguments, they don't just look at the technology hurdles. They also point out some really fundamental limitations we might bump into. Limitations that have to do with resources.
Okay.
The very nature of intelligence, and even the fabric of reality itself.
Oh, okay. All right, let's get into it. Argument number 1 kind of throws down the gauntlet right away. Resources.
Yeah.
It takes a crazy amount of power just to run the AI systems we have right now.
That's right. Just think about training a large language model like GPT-3.
Yeah.
Uses as much energy as like several households use in a whole year.
Really?
And that's just one AI system.
Wow.
So now imagine trying to power something as complex as a superintelligence.
That's a whole other level.
It's not just a bigger power bill. We're talking about needing an entirely new energy infrastructure. And even then, that's just the energy generation part of it.
Oh, then there's the whole issue of keeping these super systems from like melting down just from the heat of all that computation.
Yeah, exactly.
The sources we've been looking at, they compare it to trying to prevent a skyscraper from spontaneously combusting.
Yeah, it's wild. And here's the thing. Even if we could somehow generate and manage that much power, our technology, like the actual hardware, might not even be able to handle it.
Oh,
It might not be strong enough, robust enough to sustain those crazy levels of computation.
So this first point, it's really highlighting a very real physical constraint.
Yeah.
We might literally not have the resources to build and run a superintelligence.
At least not with the technology we have now.
Not with what we've got right now. Okay, so let's say, for argument's sake, we somehow solve the resource problem.
Okay.
Argument number 2 throws us another curveball. Algorithmic roadblocks.
Ooh, yeah, this is where it gets really interesting. There's this growing concern that our current AI approaches, the ways we're building AI now, like deep learning, they might actually hit a fundamental limit when it comes to actually getting to ASI.
Okay, so to explain this, the source uses a really cool analogy.
Okay.
Imagine a Formula One race car, super high-tech, top of the line, but it's stuck on a bumpy dirt track.
Oh, I see.
So it might be the most powerful car in the world, but on that terrain, it's just, it's not going to perform at its best.
It's not the right tool for the job.
It's not the right tool. Exactly. And that's what we might be facing with AI right now. Deep learning has been incredibly successful, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But it might be like fundamentally limited when it comes to actually reaching ASI.
Yeah. We might be hitting a point of diminishing returns. Like when you're squeezing an orange, eventually you get to a point where you need a whole new technique.
You need a different approach.
So
we're essentially trying to get to the moon using a car.
Not a rocket ship.
Not a rocket ship, exactly.
We might need a whole new understanding of intelligence and computation.
Yeah.
To even get close to ASI.
But there's another layer to this.
Yeah.
It's not just that it might be like ill-equipped for this journey.
Right.
It could actually become unstable at larger scales.
That's right. As we scale things up, we might start to see outcomes that are unpredictable.
Okay.
And potentially dangerous.
Oh, wow.
Which would obviously be a huge setback.
A major setback. Okay, so we've got resource hurdles.
Yeah.
And we've got these potential limitations in our current approaches to AI.
Right.
But then argument number 3, it flips the script.
Okay.
And it focuses on us, on humans.
Oh, interesting.
It argues that we need to really consider the unique nature of human intelligence.
Okay.
Before we even assume that replicating it or surpassing it is even possible.
Yeah, this is where it gets really deep.
Yeah.
It's arguing that human intelligence, it's not just about raw brain power. It's so much more than that.
It's like comparing a human chef, a really great chef, to a really fancy cooking appliance.
Okay.
So the appliance can follow recipes perfectly.
Right.
It can do all these amazing things.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have the creativity or the intuition or even just the understanding of like cultural context that a real chef brings to the table.
And even if AGI could somehow mimic some of those qualities, it might also inherit the same limitations that we have.
That's interesting. So even with all that intelligence in AGI, it might still make some of the same mistakes.
Potentially, yeah.
Or hit the same cognitive ceilings that we do.
That's the point. And this actually ties back into the chef analogy.
Okay.
A great chef, they need years of experience in a real kitchen.
Yeah.
Learning through trial and error, building up this deep understanding of flavor and technique.
You can't learn that from a book.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Human intelligence, it's deeply tied to our physical lived experiences.
Yeah.
Something that AI, as we know it, it simply doesn't have.
It doesn't have that lived experience.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's 3 pretty big hurdles on the path to ASI.
Yeah.
What's number 4?
This one's interesting.
Okay.
It asks, is there even a point where intelligence stops being useful?
Okay, I like this. So, like, at a certain level, does more intelligence not really get you any further?
Yeah, the source material calls this the concept of maximum useful intelligence.
Maximum useful intelligence.
Yeah.
Okay, I like that.
It's like when you're training for a marathon. At a certain point, adding more miles, it doesn't actually make you any faster.
There's a point where it's counterproductive.
Exactly.
It's not actually helping you anymore.
And they use the example of weightlifting. You can keep adding more and more weight, but eventually the gains, they become negligible.
Yeah.
And maybe that's true for intelligence too.
So even if we could create an AI with an IQ of 500,
right,
would it actually be able to solve the problems that really matter?
That's the debate. In many real-world situations, speed and efficiency are actually more valuable than pure intelligence.
Oh, that's interesting.
Think about something like high-frequency trading. The algorithms that succeed there.
Yeah.
They're not necessarily the smartest, but they're the fastest.
The fastest.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fascinating. So we've covered resources, the limitations of current AI, the unique nature of human intelligence, and this idea that intelligence itself might have a ceiling. That's 4 pretty big hurdles.
Yeah.
That's the 5th argument.
This one gets into something it's both simple and incredibly profound at the same time.
Okay.
Reality itself.
Reality itself.
Even the most advanced AI, it can't perfectly simulate the chaotic nature of the real world.
Ah, so this is where things start to get a little philosophical.
A little bit, yeah.
I like it. The source asks us to imagine trying to predict the exact path of a leaf falling in the wind.
Okay.
Even with all the sensors and all the calculations in the world,
more data, yeah.
You can't perfectly predict where it's going to land.
It's impossible.
It's impossible.
And that's because reality is inherently chaotic and unpredictable.
The source compares AI simulations to maps.
Okay.
They're useful tools, but they're not the actual territory.
Right. A map can show you the general layout of a city.
Yeah.
But it can't predict the movement of every single person or car.
Exactly. And this is a fundamental limitation for AI.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to trying to predict or control these really complex systems.
Complex systems like what? Give me an example.
Like economies or ecosystems.
Okay, so systems that are made up of so many interacting parts.
Millions, billions of interacting parts.
That even tiny changes can have these massive, unpredictable effects.
Right. It's like that butterfly effect idea.
Yeah, where a butterfly flapping its wings in Brazil can supposedly cause a tornado in Texas.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And some phenomena like quantum mechanics or certain weather patterns, they're just inherently irreducible. They can't be fully explained or predicted even with perfect information. So even a superintelligent AI would still be grappling with the limitations of trying to understand and predict a universe that's just inherently messy and unpredictable.
That's right.
That's a pretty humbling thought, I think.
It is. And it actually leads us to the 6th argument, which deals with something really crucial, how AI processes information. Abstraction.
Ooh, okay, abstraction. I love this kind of stuff. Give me an analogy. I love how the source uses analogies to make these complex ideas easier to understand.
Imagine you're trying to navigate a really dense jungle.
Okay.
You could try to push through blindly, but you'd probably get lost pretty quickly.
It would be tough.
Humans, on the other hand, we create maps and paths.
Okay, yeah.
Using abstractions to make sense of the environment.
We simplify the reality to make it easier to navigate.
Exactly. But AI, especially in its current forms, doesn't do that as well. It might see the jungle as just this jumble of individual trees.
Individual trees.
But it doesn't necessarily create those higher level abstractions.
Okay, I see the issue here. Because we use abstractions all the time to solve problems and make predictions.
Yeah.
Think about Newton's laws of motion. They're not a perfect representation of reality, but they allow us to understand and predict the movement of objects in such a powerful way.
Exactly. And that's something current AI struggles with. Without that ability to abstract, it might be stuck in the details.
Okay.
Unable to generalize its knowledge to new situations. Or solve problems that are outside of its very specific training data.
So even with all the data in the world, an AI without strong abstraction abilities, it might still be stuck in its own little computational jungle.
It's possible, yeah.
That's a really interesting thought.
And it actually brings us to the final argument.
Okay.
And perhaps the most thought-provoking one in this whole deep dive.
Finally on me.
It has to do with something humans are incredibly good at, harnessing the power of the collective.
Yes, the ant colony analogy.
Yeah.
You talked about that earlier. Each individual ant might not be very smart on its own.
Yeah. On its own, it's pretty limited.
But together, they can build these incredible structures and accomplish amazing things.
Exactly. And humans have a similar ability for collective intelligence.
We do.
Think about how we've built civilizations, developed technologies, created art and culture. No single person has all the answers. But by working together, we can achieve truly incredible things.
It's the power of collaboration.
Exactly.
So are we basically saying that a group of humans, even with their individual limitations, can still outperform a single superintelligent AI?
It's not necessarily about outperforming, but about recognizing the potential of that collective intelligence. Right now, most AI operates as individual brains.
Okay.
Even a superintelligent AI might hit a cognitive ceiling that human collaboration can overcome.
Because we can share knowledge, we can debate ideas, we can build on each other's strengths. That's right. And while AI can collaborate to some extent, it's not quite the same, is it?
No, it's not. There are still major challenges in coordinating those AI systems on a large scale.
Yeah.
And dealing with these emergent behaviors that can arise when you have a bunch of intelligent agents interacting with each other.
That makes sense. Wow, this whole deep dive is really making me rethink my assumptions about AI and superintelligence.
Me too, yeah.
These 7 arguments, they paint a much more complex picture of this journey from AGI to ASI.
Definitely.
It's not just about raw processing power.
Or clever algorithms.
It's about resources, the nature of intelligence itself, the unpredictable reality we inhabit, and the power of collective understanding.
That's a great summary. And that's just the beginning. We've identified these potential roadblocks, but the next question is, how do we navigate them?
Oh, good point. That is a great question, and it's something we're going to be digging into in the next part of our deep dive, so stay tuned for that. Welcome back. So you and I, we've been exploring these 7 fascinating arguments about why the jump from AGI to ASI might not be so simple. And it's easy to get lost in the weeds, all the technical details.
The nitty-gritty.
Yeah, the nitty-gritty. But I think it's good to just step back for a second and ask, so what?
Yeah, that's the big question.
Why should we even care about these potential roadblocks?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? I think understanding these challenges, these roadblocks, it's crucial for a couple of big reasons. First, it helps us have a more realistic conversation about AI. There's just so much hype out there.
There is.
And speculation, and it's easy to get caught up in the excitement of it all, or the fear, depending on where you're coming from.
Yeah.
But if we acknowledge these potential limitations, I think we can have a more balanced discussion.
Like with anything, if you want to have a productive conversation, you need to understand the complexities, the nuances.
Absolutely. And the second reason this matters is that it can actually help us guide the development of AI in a more responsible direction.
Okay, so if we know what the roadblocks might be, we can try to anticipate them and steer clear of those potential pitfalls.
Exactly. If we know resources are going to be a bottleneck, we can put more effort into researching AI systems that are more energy efficient.
Oh, interesting.
And if we recognize the limitations of the current paradigms, the ways we're building AI now, we can start exploring new approaches that might be more scalable and robust.
And if we understand the unique things about human intelligence, maybe we can find ways for AI to actually complement and enhance those abilities.
Yeah.
Instead of just trying to replace them entirely.
Absolutely. It's not about humans versus machines. It's about finding ways for them to work together.
To collaborate.
To collaborate, yeah, and help us solve problems that we can't solve on our own.
I like that. Okay, so understanding these potential roadblocks to ASI, it's not just about predicting the future.
Right.
It's about actively shaping the future of AI in a positive way.
Exactly. It's about asking ourselves the tough questions.
Yeah.
Being aware of the risks and making informed choices about the kind of future we want to build with this powerful technology.
I love that. This whole deep dive, it's really shifting my perspective. We often hear about the dangers of superintelligent AI, the scary stuff.
The doomsday scenarios.
Yeah, but what we're talking about here, it highlights a different kind of risk. The risk of oversimplifying the narrative.
Yeah, absolutely.
Assuming that AGI will inevitably and quickly lead to ASI.
Like it's just a matter of time.
When it might not be that straightforward at all.
Exactly.
And that oversimplification, it can lead to all sorts of problems.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It can make us complacent.
Yeah.
Oh, it's inevitable. There's nothing we can do about it. Or it can make us overly fearful.
Yeah.
Leading to these knee-jerk reactions. It might actually stifle innovation.
Exactly. So I think the key is to really embrace complexity, recognizing that the path from AGI to ASI, if it even exists, it's likely to be long and winding and full of these unexpected twists and turns.
And this journey, it's not just about technological advancement. It's also about understanding the nature of intelligence itself.
Totally.
The complexities of reality.
Yeah.
Our own role in shaping the future of AI.
You got it. And speaking of complexity,
yes,
let's go back to those arguments from the source material.
Okay.
We've covered 6 so far, but there's a 7th one we haven't talked about yet.
The 7th one.
The power of the collective.
The ant colony analogy.
Yeah.
We talked about how humans can achieve incredible things through collaboration.
Sharing knowledge.
But the sources also hint that there's a flip side to this.
There is.
That even with all our combined intelligence, we might still struggle to really understand and manage a superintelligence.
That's a really important point. It's one thing to recognize the power of the collective, but it's another thing entirely to actually harness that power effectively, especially when you're dealing with something as potentially transformative as ASI.
So a superintelligence could be so far beyond our individual comprehension that even a group of really smart people,
the best minds in the world,
they might still struggle to wrap their heads around it.
Exactly. It's like trying to understand a vast alien civilization.
Oh, okay.
With only a few scattered pieces of their technology. We might be able to grasp some basic principles, but the full scope of their knowledge and capabilities, it would likely remain a mystery. And that's a great place to wrap things up. The conversation about AI is just getting started.
It is.
And as AI keeps evolving, we got to keep asking the tough questions, debating different ideas, and working together to make sure this powerful technology is used to benefit everyone.
Said. As we sign off, we'll leave you with one final thought to ponder. If and when ASI arrives, will it be this sudden explosion of intelligence? Or will it be this slow, gradual kind of emergence? What do you think? Thanks for joining us for this incredible deep dive into the future of intelligence. Until next time.